Chapter 1. Comfort is the most dangerous addiction. The invisible trap. We live in the most comfortable era in human history. We have conquered the elements. We have climate-controlled homes, food that appears at our doorstep with the tap of a glass screen, and chairs designed by ergonomic engineers to ensure we never feel a moment of physical strain. We have optimized our world to remove friction. We have spent billions of dollars as a species trying to ensure that we never have to be cold, never have to be hungry, and never have to be bored. But look around. Are we the strongest generation in history? Are we the most resilient? Are we the most fulfilled? The answer is a staggering no. In our quest to eliminate discomfort, we have inadvertently started to eliminate our own potential. We have become comfort addicts. And like any addiction, comfort feels safe, warm, and soothing in the short term, while it quietly rots our capabilities from the inside out. The biological glitch. To understand why comfort is so dangerous, we have to look at the brain. Your brain is not designed to make you a billionaire, an elite athlete, or a world-class leader. Your brain is designed for one thing: survival. For 99% of human history, survival meant one thing: conserving energy. In the wild, if you found a warm cave and a surplus of calories, the smartest thing your brain could tell you to do was stay there and do nothing. This was a brilliant survival strategy 10,000 years ago. But in the modern world, this evolutionary glitch is what keeps you stuck on the couch. Your brain views effort as a threat to your survival. It views uncertainty as a predator. It views social rejection as a death sentence. When you choose comfort, your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine because it thinks you are safe. But this safety is an illusion. When the brain stops being challenged, it begins to prune its neural connections. Just like a muscle that isn't used will atrophy, a mind that isn't pushed will soften. When life becomes too easy, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for willpower and long-term planning, actually begins to weaken. You are literally thinking yourself into a smaller life because your brain is trying to save you from a danger that doesn't exist. The myth of stability. The most dangerous thing about the comfort trap is that it is invisible. It doesn't look like a disaster. It looks like stability. It looks like a good enough job. It looks like a decent relationship. It looks like relaxing after a long day. Most people aren't living lives of active failure. They are living lives of passive stagnation. They believe they are content, but if they look closely, they are actually just drifting. Imagine a boat in the middle of the ocean. The engines are off, the water is calm, and the sun is shining. It feels peaceful. But because the engines are off, the current is slowly pulling that boat miles away from its intended destination. By the time the person on the boat realizes they are lost, they are out of fuel and surrounded by storms. This is what happens when you prioritize comfort over growth. You wake up at 40, 50, or 60 years old and realize that you never actually chose your life. You just accepted the path of least resistance. Comfort slowly weakens ambition. Ambition is a flame that requires oxygen. That oxygen is challenge. When you remove challenge, the flame flickers and dies. Think about the golden handcuffs of a corporate job. You hate the work, but the salary is comfortable. The benefits are comfortable. The routine is comfortable. Because you aren't suffering, you never feel the desperate need to leave. You stay for 5 years, then 10, then 20. You traded your dreams for a plush office chair and a consistent paycheck. This is the slow kill of comfort. If someone punched you in the face, you would fight back or run. That is a clear threat. But comfort is like a warm bath that is slowly being heated to a boil. You don't jump out because it feels good until it's too late. Real growth only begins when you feel the pressure of the unknown. It begins when you are pushed into a corner and have to find a way out. It begins when you are tired, frustrated, and uncertain, and you keep moving anyway. The lobster analogy. Consider the life of a lobster. A lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside a rigid, hard shell. That shell does not expand. As the lobster grows, that shell becomes incredibly confining. It begins to press against the lobster's body. It becomes uncomfortable. It becomes painful. If the lobster had a comfort-seeking brain, it would take a sedative or hide under a rock and try to ignore the pain. But the lobster understands something we have forgotten. The discomfort is the signal that it is time to grow. When the pressure becomes unbearable, the lobster goes under a rock formation to protect itself from predators, sheds its old shell, and grows a new one. It repeats this process many times throughout its life. The stimulus for the lobster to grow is the fact that it feels uncomfortable. If you want to grow, you have to stop viewing discomfort as a problem to be solved and start viewing it as a signal to be followed. If you feel squished in your current life, if your job feels too small, if your routine feels stifling, that isn't a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that it is time to shed your old shell. The addiction of the easy button. We are addicted to the easy button. We want the result without the process. We want the six-pack without the gym. We want the business success without the 80-hour work weeks. We want the deep relationship without the difficult conversations. But the process is where the value lies. When you take the shortcut, you cheat yourself out of the character building that comes with the struggle. A person who inherits $1 million is not the same as a person who earns $1 million. The person who earned it developed the discipline, the skills, the resilience, and the mindset required to manage it. The person who inherited it is often destroyed by it. When you seek comfort, you are looking for a shortcut. You are trying to bypass the struggle. But the struggle is the teacher. Without the struggle, you are fragile. And in a world that is constantly changing, fragility is a death sentence. Auditing your comfort. I want you to take a hard look at your life right now. Where are you seeking comfort at the expense of your potential? Is it in your health? Are you choosing the comfort of processed food and the couch? Is it in your career? Are you avoiding the discomfort of a new project or a difficult conversation with your boss? Is it in your mind? Are you numbing yourself with endless scrolling and streaming because it's easier than reading a book or learning a new skill? Write down the areas where you feel the most stable. Those are likely the areas where you are most at risk of stagnation. Closing the chapter. As we move through this book, we are going to dismantle the comfort-first philosophy that society has sold you. We are going to learn how to rewire your brain to crave the very things you currently fear. But it starts with this realization: the couch is not your friend. The easy path is not your friend. The safe bet is not your friend. They are the walls of a prison you have built for yourself. Every time you choose the easy way, you are voting for a weaker version of yourself. Every time you choose the comfortable option, you are shrinking your world. It is time to stop being a passenger in your own life. It is time to start pushing back against the gravity of mediocrity. Remember this throughout your day. Comfort feels safe, but comfort quietly kills potential. Chapter 2. Growth begins the moment you feel resistance. The resistance compass. Imagine walking into a gym and picking up a set of weights. You lift them effortlessly. 10 representatives, 20 representatives, 50 representatives. You aren't even breathing hard. You feel comfortable. You feel good at the exercise. But at the end of that session, have you actually become stronger? No. You have simply moved your limbs through space. You haven't triggered a single biological process that leads to muscle growth. Now, imagine picking up a weight that is so heavy your muscles begin to shake by the 5th rep. By the 8th, your face is turning red. By the 10th, you aren't sure if you can finish the movement. That sensation, that burning, that trembling, that intense desire to drop the weight, is resistance. And that resistance is the only reason your body will ever change. Growth does not happen in the absence of friction. Growth is the response to friction. In this chapter, we are going to explore why the very thing you usually try to avoid, the feeling of this is too hard, is actually the most accurate GPS coordinate for your personal evolution. If you aren't feeling resistance, you aren't growing. You are simply coasting. And as the old saying goes, the only way to coast is downhill. The physics of the human spirit. In the physical world, resistance is a force that slows things down. Wind resistance slows a car. Friction slows a sliding puck. But in the world of human character, resistance is the fuel. Think about the most significant moments of your life. Were they the moments when everything was easy and went exactly as planned? Or were they the moments when you were backed into a corner, when you were struggling to learn a skill that felt impossible, or when you were facing a fear that made your palms sweat? When we feel resistance, our natural instinct is to pull back. We interpret difficulty as a sign that we are doing something wrong. We think, if I were talented at this, it would feel natural. If this was the right path, it wouldn't be this frustrating. This is a lie. In fact, the opposite is true. The awkward phase is the most productive phase of any endeavor. When you feel like an amateur, when you feel clumsy, when you feel like your brain is straining to understand a concept, you are witnessing the physical rewiring of your nervous system. You are building myelin, the science of the struggle. In the last 2 decades, neurologists have focused heavily on a substance in the brain called myelin. Myelin is a fatty tissue that wraps around your neural pathways. Think of it like the insulation on an electrical wire. The more myelin a circuit has, the faster and more accurately the signal travels. Every time you push yourself through a difficult task, you add a layer of myelin to that specific circuit. But here is the catch. Myelin doesn't grow when you do things easily. It grows when you reach the edge of your ability and fail repeatedly while trying to bridge the gap. When you are struggling to solve a complex problem or trying to master a difficult conversation, your brain is firing signals. When those signals meet resistance, the brain realizes that the current wire isn't strong enough. It sends out a signal to wrap that wire in more myelin. The struggle isn't a side effect of learning. The struggle is the learning. When you shy away from resistance, you are literally telling your brain, don't bother getting better. This version of me is good enough. But when you lean into the friction, you are commanding your biology to upgrade itself. The brain's protective instinct. Why difficulty feels like danger. If resistance is so good for us, why does it feel so bad? Why does every cell in our body scream at us to stop when things get hard? The answer lies in the amygdala. This is the ancient, almond-shaped part of your brain responsible for the fight-or-flight response. To your amygdala, there is no difference between a saber-toothed tiger and the threat of a difficult new project or the danger of looking stupid while learning a new language. The amygdala craves familiarity. Familiarity is safe. Familiarity means you didn't die yesterday, so let's do exactly what we did yesterday. When you encounter resistance, whether it's the resistance of a hard workout, the resistance of a complex book, or the resistance of a high-pressure environment, the amygdala sounds the alarm. It floods your body with cortisol. It makes you feel anxious. It tells you that this isn't for you. The highest performing individuals in the world, the Navy SEALs, the surgeons, the innovators, have learned that this feeling of anxiety isn't a stop sign, it's a go sign. They have trained themselves to recognize that the moment they feel that internal pushback, they have reached the growth zone. The 3 zones of existence. To master resistance, you must understand where you are currently living. There are 3 primary zones. The comfort zone. This is where you spend 90% of your time. It's the routine. It's the work you can do in your sleep. It feels safe, but nothing grows here. The growth zone, the resistance zone, this is just outside your comfort zone. It's where things feel awkward. It's where you make mistakes. It's where you feel a bit frustrated. This is the only place where learning happens. The panic zone. This is too far outside your current ability. If you try to run a marathon without ever having walked a mile, you enter the panic zone. Your brain shuts down because the resistance is too high to handle. Most people make the mistake of staying in the comfort zone because they are afraid of the panic zone. They don't realize that there is a massive middle ground, the growth zone. Your goal should be to live in that growth zone as much as possible. You should be looking for desirable difficulty. You want the task to be hard enough that it requires your full focus, but not so hard that you collapse. The ugly phase of mastery. One of the biggest killers of growth is the perfectionism trap. We see the finished product of successful people, the polished speech, the billion-dollar company, the shredded physique, and we assume they were always that way. We don't see the ugly phase. We don't see the thousands of hours of resistance they faced when they were terrible at what they did. When you start something new, resistance will be at its peak. You will feel like an imposter. You will feel like you're wasting your time. This is where most people quit. They think the resistance is proof that they lack talent. But talent is largely the result of how much resistance you are willing to endure. The person who becomes a master isn't the person who found it easy. It's the person who stayed in the ugly phase longer than everyone else. They embraced the awkwardness. They leaned into the friction until the friction gave way. Practical application. Microdosing resistance. How do you start seeking resistance in your daily life? You start small. You microdose discomfort. If you usually take the elevator, take the stairs. That small physical resistance tells your brain that you are no longer a slave to convenience. If you usually avoid difficult emails until the end of the day, do the hardest one first. That psychological resistance is where your discipline is built. If you are in a meeting and you have a question but are afraid of sounding dumb, ask it. The social resistance you feel is the exact place where your confidence is forged. Every time you choose the path with more resistance, you are strengthening your growth reflex. You are teaching your brain that resistance is not something to be feared, it is something to be harvested. The transformation of difficulty. Over time, something magical happens. The things that used to feel like high resistance begin to feel like low resistance. Think back to when you first learned to drive a car. It was terrifying. You had to focus on the mirrors, the pedals, the steering, and the road all at once. The resistance was immense. Your brain was exhausted after 20 minutes. Today, you can drive while listening to a podcast and thinking about your grocery list. Why? Because you leaned into the resistance until your brain built the myelin required to make it easy. This is the secret of the world's most successful people. They don't have easier lives. They have just built so much mental myelin that they can handle levels of resistance that would crush an average person. They have graduated to higher levels of difficulty. Closing thoughts for Chapter 2. Resistance is the signal of progress. It is the sound of your old self being broken down so your new self can be built. If your life feels smooth right now, be careful. It might mean you're standing still. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up and you feel that internal resistance to getting out of bed, to working out, or to starting that hard project, smile. Recognize it for what it is. It's not a hurdle in your way. It is the way. Don't pray for an easier life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one, because that is where the growth lives. Stop running from the friction and start using it to sharpen your soul. Core phrase. If it feels uncomfortable, you're probably growing. Chapter 3. Stop negotiating with your weak mind. The 5 a.m. battle. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. The room is cold, the house is silent, and your alarm is screaming on the nightstand. In that moment, a very specific dialogue begins inside your head. One voice, the voice of your goals, the one that set the alarm last night, says, "Get up. It's time to work. It's time to become the person you said you wanted to be." But then, a second voice speaks. This voice is smoother, more logical, and incredibly persuasive. It says, "You didn't sleep well last night. If you sleep 1 more hour, you'll actually be more productive later. Your body needs recovery. It's raining outside anyway. 1 day won't hurt. You've been working so hard, you deserve this." This is the negotiator. And the negotiator is the mouthpiece of your weak mind. Most people believe that successful people don't have this voice. They think that elite athletes, top CEOs, and high performers simply wake up motivated. They don't. The negotiator speaks to everyone. The difference is that successful people have learned to stop the negotiation before it even starts. They have realized a fundamental truth. Your mind will always beg for comfort, but your discipline must refuse to engage in the conversation. The mechanics of the weak mind. To defeat the negotiator, you have to understand its tactics. The weak mind is not interested in your long-term happiness, your legacy, or your bank account. It is interested in one thing: immediate biological safety. From an evolutionary standpoint, effort equals risk. In the wild, if you exerted energy when you didn't have to, you might not have enough energy to flee from a predator later. Therefore, your brain developed a sophisticated system to talk you out of unnecessary work. It uses your own emotions against you. It creates feelings of fatigue, boredom, and anxiety to trick you into staying still. The problem is that in the modern world, there are no saber-toothed tigers. The energy your brain is trying to save isn't for survival, it's being hoarded for nothing. When you listen to the negotiator, you aren't being kind to yourself, You are allowing a primitive part of your brain to hijack your future. The trap of feeling like it. The biggest mistake people make is waiting until they feel like doing the work. They treat their emotions as a compass for their actions. I'll go to the gym when I feel motivated. I'll start that business when I feel confident. I'll have that difficult conversation when the time feels right. If you only work when you feel like it, you will fail. Emotions are like the weather. They are volatile, unpredictable, and completely unreliable. One minute you're inspired. The next, you're tired and irritable. If your consistency is tied to your emotions, your results will be as inconsistent as the wind. Discipline is the ability to do the work regardless of how you feel. It is the act of divorcing your actions from your moods. The weak mind wants to negotiate based on how you feel right now. The disciplined mind acts based on the contract you made with your future self. Treat your goals like a contract. Imagine you signed a legal contract with a business partner. The contract states that you will deliver a specific result by a specific date. If you fail to deliver, you lose everything. On Tuesday morning, if you wake up feeling a little tired, do you call your partner and say, "Hey, I'm not feeling it today, so I'm going to skip my obligations"? Of course not. You do the work because the contract is non-negotiable. You need to start viewing your promises to yourself with the same level of legal gravity. When you tell yourself you are going to wake up early, read 10 pages, or eat healthy, you have signed a contract. Every time you negotiate and break that contract, you aren't just relaxing, you are destroying your self-trust. When you lose trust in yourself, your confidence evaporates. You subconsciously begin to view yourself as a person whose word means nothing. This is why just one more snooze is so much more dangerous than a lost 10 minutes of sleep. It's a vote against your own integrity. The no negotiation rule. How do you stop the negotiator? You stop talking to it. Think about a parent and a toddler. If a toddler wants a candy bar at 9 p.m. and the parent starts explaining the nutritional science of sugar and why it's bad for sleep, the toddler will keep arguing. The toddler sees the explanation as an opening for a deal. But if the parent simply says no and turns away, the argument is over. You must treat your weak mind like a toddler. Do not explain your goals to it. Do not remind it why you want to lose weight. Do not justify your actions. Just act. When the alarm goes off, don't think. Thinking is where the negotiation lives. If you start thinking, you've already given the negotiator a seat at the table. Instead, use the 5-second rule popularized by Mel Robbins. The moment you have a goal-oriented impulse, count 5-4-3-2-1 and move physically. Movement kills the negotiation. The moment your feet hit the cold floor, the negotiator loses its power. The moment you open your laptop, the excuses start to fade. The negotiator can only survive in the space between the thought and the action. If you close that gap, you win. The science of decision fatigue. One reason we lose the negotiation late in the day is decision fatigue. Every choice you make, from what to wear to what to eat for lunch, uses a small amount of mental energy. By 6 p.m., your willpower battery is low. This is when the negotiator is at its strongest. This is why you must automate your discipline. High performers don't choose to work out. They have it on a schedule so rigid that there is no decision to be made. If it's 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, they are at the gym. Period. By removing the choice, you remove the opportunity for negotiation. If you have to decide every morning whether or not you're going to work on your side hustle, you will eventually decide not to. But if your rule is "I work on my business every morning from 6 to 7 a.m., no exceptions," you have removed the weak mind from the equation. Embrace the suck. The negotiator's greatest weapon is your fear of discomfort. It tells you that the suck is something to be avoided. You must flip the script. You must learn to embrace the suck as a sign of victory. When you're in the middle of a hard workout and your lungs are burning, the negotiator will scream, "Stop! This hurts." In that moment, your response should be, "Good. If it hurts, it means I'm winning the war against my old self." By leaning into the discomfort, you are desensitizing yourself to the negotiator's threats. You are showing your brain that pain and effort are not signals to quit, but signals that you are doing exactly what is required. This is called voluntary hardship. The more you practice doing things that suck without complaining or negotiating, the quieter the voice of the weak mind becomes. The compound effect of discipline. Every time you win a negotiation against your mind, it gets easier to win the next one. You are building a success groove in your brain. When you successfully ignore the urge to check your phone while working, your focus muscle gets stronger. When you choose the salad over the pizza despite the craving, your impulse control improves. On the flip side, every time you lose the negotiation, the weak mind gets stronger. You are essentially training your brain to be lazy. You are building a failure groove. This is why there are no small decisions. Every choice is either a brick in the wall of your discipline or a crack in the foundation of your character. You are either building a person who can handle any challenge, or you are building a person who folds at the first sign of pressure. Actionable steps. Ending the inner debate. Identify your negotiation points. What are the 3 most common excuses your weak mind uses? I'm too tired. I'll do it tomorrow. I've done enough. Write them down. Recognize them as lies the next time they appear. Set non-negotiables. Choose 2 things that you will do every single day, no matter what. Whether you're sick, busy, or traveling, these are sacred acts. Kill the gap. Practice acting within 5 seconds of an impulse to do something hard. Don't give the negotiator time to speak. Audit your words. Stop saying I can't. Start saying I won't or I choose. I can't get up early is a lie. I choose to prioritize sleep over my goals is the truth. The truth is much harder to live with, and that's the point. Closing thoughts for Chapter 3. Your mind is a beautiful tool, but it is a terrible master. If you allow it to lead you, it will lead you to the path of least resistance, the path that ends in regret. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. Just because your brain thinks an excuse doesn't mean you have to act on it. You have the power to hear the negotiator's plea for comfort and say, no. The war for your life is won or lost in the quiet moments of the morning, in the late hours of the night, and in every second where you feel like quitting. Shut down the debate. End the negotiation. Do the work. Core phrase. Your mind will beg for comfort. Your discipline must refuse. Chapter 4. Pressure builds the strongest minds. The diamond and the coal. There is a fundamental law of nature that applies to geology just as much as it applies to human psychology. Greatness requires weight. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, there is carbon. If that carbon remains in a low-pressure environment, it remains coal, soft, dark, and easily crumbled. But if that same carbon is subjected to intense heat and millions of pounds of atmospheric pressure, its molecular structure changes. It bonds so tightly that it becomes the hardest natural substance known to man. It becomes a diamond. Human beings are no different. We are all made of the same basic carbon of potential. The difference between the person who crumbles under the weight of life and the person who shines with unbreakable brilliance is the amount of pressure they were willing to endure. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pressure. They want the low-stress job, the easygoing relationship, and the life with no deadlines or demands. They think they are being kind to themselves. In reality, they are ensuring they remain cold, fragile, unremarkable, and easily broken by the first real crisis that comes their way. The modern allergy to stress. We live in an anxiety-avoidant culture. We have been taught that stress is a purely negative thing, a silent killer that we should meditate away or medicate out of our systems. While chronic, purposeless stress is indeed harmful, we have thrown the baby out with the bathwater. We have developed a pressure allergy. When a deadline approaches, we feel stressed. When a conflict arises, we feel anxious. When a high-stakes opportunity presents itself, we feel overwhelmed. Our immediate reaction is to retreat to a safe space. But science tells a different story. There is a concept called eustress, or positive stress. This is the pressure that pushes you to perform. It is the adrenaline that sharpens your focus before a presentation. It is the weight on your shoulders that forces you to stand taller. Without pressure, the human mind begins to drift. Like a kite without wind, we cannot soar if there is no resistance pushing against us. We need the weight of responsibility and the heat of high stakes to force our minds to operate at their highest capacity. The forge of greatness, elite performance. Think of the most respected figures in history. Think of the athletes who hit the game-winning shot with 3 seconds on the clock and 20,000 people screaming. Think of the surgeons who perform life-saving operations where a millimeter of error means death. Think of the entrepreneurs who bet their last dollar on a vision and won. Do you think these people grew in comfort? Do you think they found their strength in a safe space? No. Every strong person you admire was forged in a high-pressure environment. Michael Jordan didn't become MJ in the off-season. He became a legend in the fourth quarter when the pressure was so high it would have paralyzed a normal man. Navy SEALs aren't found. They are made through a process designed to apply so much pressure that only the unbreakable remain. These individuals didn't just handle pressure, they sought it out. They realized that the big stage, the moment where everything is on the line, is the only place where true growth occurs. They didn't view pressure as a burden. They viewed it as a privilege. Pressure reveals, it doesn't create. There is a common misconception that pressure makes a person's character. It doesn't. Pressure reveals it. Imagine you have a sponge. If you want to know what is inside that sponge, you don't look at it while it's sitting on the counter. You squeeze it. When you apply pressure to the sponge, whatever is inside, whether it's clean water or dirty grime, will come out. Life will eventually squeeze you. It might be a health crisis, a financial collapse, a betrayal, or a massive professional failure. In those moments, the real you will emerge. If you have spent your life avoiding pressure and seeking comfort, what comes out will be fear, resentment, and fragility. But if you have spent your life intentionally stepping into high-pressure situations, if you have trained yourself to handle the squeeze, what comes out will be resilience, calm, and strength. You cannot wait for the crisis to decide you want to be strong. You must use the everyday pressures of work, fitness, and discipline as your training ground so that when the world truly tries to break you, it finds that you are already made of diamond. The science of stress inoculation. Psychologists use a term called stress inoculation. It's very similar to how a vaccine works. A vaccine introduces a small, weakened version of a virus into your body so that your immune system can learn how to defeat it. Then, when the real virus arrives, your body is ready. You can inoculate your mind against the pressures of life by voluntarily seeking out microdoses of pressure every day. Physical pressure, pushing your body to its absolute limit in the gym. Intellectual pressure, taking on a project that is slightly above your current skill level. Social pressure, public speaking or leading a team where you are responsible for the outcome. Each time you survive a high-pressure moment, your psychological baseline shifts. What used to feel like a level 10 stressor becomes a level 5. You begin to realize that the feeling of pressure is just a physical sensation, a racing heart, a tightening chest, and that those sensations don't have to control your actions. You learn to stay in the pocket while the world is spinning around you. Reframing. Pressure is a privilege. The legendary tennis player Billie Jean King famously said, "Pressure is a privilege." Think about what that means. If you are under pressure, it usually means that what you are doing matters. It means people are counting on you. It means you are in the game, not sitting in the bleachers. The person with zero pressure is usually the person with zero impact. The person with no deadlines is the person with no purpose. The person who never feels the heat of competition is the person who is playing it so safe that they aren't actually living. When you feel the weight of expectation, don't complain. Don't wish it were easier. Reframe it. Tell yourself, I am under this pressure because I am a person who handles big things. I am in this situation because I have the capacity to change the outcome. The weight you feel is not a weight that is trying to crush you. It is the weight of the responsibility you have earned. How to handle the weight, the calm in the storm. When the pressure is at its peak, how do you ensure you don't break? You must learn the art of objective thinking. High-pressure situations often fail because of emotional flooding. You start thinking about the consequences of failure. What if I lose my job? What if everyone laughs at me? What if I'm not good enough? The diamond mind doesn't think about what if. It thinks about what is. It focuses only on the next immediate step. In a high-pressure meeting, don't think about the promotion. Think about the next sentence you need to say. In a grueling workout, don't think about the next 20 minutes. Think about the next breath. By shrinking your focus to the present moment, you take the power away from the pressure. You realize that you can handle anything for the next 10 seconds. And if you can handle it for 10 seconds, you can handle it for 10 minutes. And if you can do that, you are unbreakable. The trees of the biosphere. There is a famous experiment called Biosphere 2. In the 1990s, scientists built a massive, sealed dome in the desert designed to be a perfect ecosystem. Inside, they planted trees. These trees had the perfect amount of water, perfect sunlight, and perfect soil. They grew incredibly fast, much faster than trees in the wild. But then, something strange happened. Before the trees reached full maturity, they simply collapsed under their own weight. They fell over and died. The scientists eventually discovered why. The dome had no wind. In the wild, wind constantly pushes against trees. This stress causes the tree to grow stress wood, a denser, stronger type of wood that gives the tree structural integrity. Without the pressure of the wind, the trees grew tall, but they were weak. They lacked the internal strength to support their own height. You are that tree. If you live in a biosphere of comfort, you might look successful on the outside, but you will have no internal structure. The first time a real wind blows, you will snap. You need the wind. You need the pressure to build your stress wood. Closing thoughts for Chapter 4. Do not run from the difficult seasons of your life. Do not curse the heavy workloads or the high expectations. These are the winds that are making your roots go deep. These are the fires that are burning away the coal and leaving only the diamond. The strongest minds are not the ones that have never known stress. They are the ones that have been broken and mended, pressured and tested, and have come out the other side with a quiet, unshakable confidence. Tomorrow, when things get hard, when the deadline looms, when the stakes are high, and when the world is watching, remember, this is not a disaster. This is your forge. Core phrase. Pressure is not your enemy. Pressure is your training ground. Chapter 5. Easy choices create hard lives. The great trade-off. Every single day, from the moment your eyes open to the moment you close them at night, you are a trader. You are constantly bartering with the universe. You are trading your time, your energy, and your focus for a specific outcome. There are only two types of trades you can make. The first is the easy choice. This is the trade where you get the reward now and pay the price later. This is the snooze button. This is the fast food. This is the distraction of social media. This is avoiding the difficult conversation with your spouse or your boss. The second is the hard choice. This is the trade where you pay the price now and get the reward later. This is the early morning workout. This is the disciplined diet. This is the deep work session when you'd rather be watching Netflix. This is the confrontation that clears the air. The tragedy of the human condition is that we are biologically wired to prefer the first trade. We are instant gratification machines. But there is a mathematical certainty to life that most people ignore until it is too late. The ease of your present is perfectly correlated to the difficulty of your future. The physics of the easy path. When you make an easy choice, you aren't actually eliminating difficulty. You are simply deferring it. You are taking out a high-interest loan against your future self. Think about your health. Choosing to eat processed, sugary food today is easy. It tastes good, it's convenient, and it gives you a quick hit of dopamine. But that choice doesn't disappear. It compounds. It turns into inflammation, then weight gain, then chronic lethargy, and eventually, a hard life defined by medical bills, physical limitations, and a shortened lifespan. Think about your finances. Spending every dollar you earn on status symbols and comforts today is easy. It makes you feel successful in the moment. But you are trading your future freedom for a present illusion. 10 years from now, you will have a hard life defined by debt, stress, and the inability to walk away from a job you hate because you are a slave to your payments. The easy path is a trap because it feels like a shortcut, but it's actually the longest, most painful road you can take. It's a road that leads to a dead end of regret. The prefrontal cortex versus the limbic system. Why is it so hard to make the hard choice? Because there is a civil war happening inside your skull. Your limbic system is the oldest part of your brain. It's the seat of your emotions and your survival instincts. It wants the donut. It wants the save button. It wants the safety of the herd. To the limbic system, a hard choice feels like a threat to your survival. Your prefrontal cortex is the newest part of your brain. It's the seat of your logic, your long-term planning, and your identity. This is the part of you that knows that the salad is better than the donut. This is the part of you that wants to build a legacy. The easy choice is always the choice dictated by the limbic system. The hard choice is the choice dictated by the prefrontal cortex. Most people live their lives entirely through the limbic system. They react to their environment. They follow their cravings. They avoid their fears. And as a result, they remain biological puppets. To become a master of your life, you must learn to override the ancient software of your brain. You must learn to look past the immediate discomfort of the hard choice and see the long-term freedom it provides. The pain of discipline versus the pain of regret. The legendary philosopher Jim Rohn once said, "We must all suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons." This is the core truth of this chapter. You cannot escape pain. Life is inherently painful. It requires effort. It requires sacrifice. If you choose the pain of discipline, the hard choice, you are choosing a pain that is purposeful. It is the pain of the muscle growing. It is the pain of the ego being humbled. It is a sharp, temporary pain that leaves you stronger than it found you. But if you try to avoid that pain by making easy choices, you will eventually collide with the pain of regret. And regret is a different kind of monster. Regret is a dull, heavy, permanent ache. It's the realization that you had potential and you squandered it. It's the look in your children's eyes when they realize you didn't have the courage to provide the life you promised. It's the weight of the what ifs. You can pay the ounces today by doing the work, or you can pay the tons later by living with the consequences of your laziness. There is no third option. The mirage of one time. The negotiator, whom we met in Chapter 3, loves to use the one-time argument to get you to make an easy choice. It's just one donut. It's just one day off from the gym. It's just one night of staying up late to scroll. The negotiator is lying. There is no such thing as an isolated choice. Every choice you make is a reinforcement of a pattern. When you make an easy choice just this once, you are making it 10% easier to make that same easy choice tomorrow. You are training your brain to be a person who folds under pressure. You are building a neural highway toward mediocrity. Conversely, when you make a hard choice when you really don't want to, you are building a neural highway toward excellence. You are proving to yourself that you are the type of person who does what is required, not what is convenient. Your life is not defined by the big, dramatic moments. It is defined by the thousands of micro-choices you make when no one is watching. It is the sum total of every time you chose the hard way over the easy way. Freedom is found in the hard choice. Most people think that freedom means being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want. That isn't freedom, that's impulsivity. That's being a slave to your whims. True freedom, real, lasting, powerful freedom, is only found through discipline. Discipline with your money, the hard choice, creates the freedom to retire early or start a business. Discipline with your health, the hard choice, creates the freedom to travel, hike, and play with your grandkids when you're 80. Discipline with your time, the hard choice, creates the freedom to master a skill that makes you indispensable to the world. If you make easy choices today, you are narrowing your future options. You are boxing yourself in. If you have no savings, no health, and no skills, you have zero freedom. You have to take whatever job is offered. You have to eat whatever you can afford. You have to live wherever the market dictates. Hard choices expand your world. Easy choices shrink it. The hard now audit. To change your trajectory, you must perform a hard now audit on your daily routine. Ask yourself these 3 questions. What is the easy choice I am making every morning? E.g., checking the phone immediately, hitting snooze. What is the hard choice I am avoiding at work? E.g., asking for more responsibility, admitting a mistake, doing deep work without distractions. What is the easy choice I am making to numb myself at night? e.g., alcohol, endless streaming, mindless eating. For every easy choice you identify, you must replace it with its hard counterpart. Don't try to change everything at once. Pick one. Replace the snooze, easy, with feet on the floor, hard. Do that for a week. Then move to the next. You will find that the hard choice is only actually hard for the first 5 minutes. Once you start the workout, it feels good. Once you start the difficult conversation, the anxiety begins to lift. The hard choice has a high entry fee, but the membership benefits are incredible. The easy choice has no entry fee, but the monthly interest will bankrupt you. The compound interest of character. We often talk about compound interest in terms of money, but it applies to character as well. A person who makes hard choices for 5 years straight becomes unrecognizable. Their confidence isn't fake, it's based on a mountain of evidence they've built through their actions. They walk differently. They speak differently. They have an internal citadel that cannot be shaken by external events. A person who makes easy choices for 5 years also becomes unrecognizable, but in the opposite direction. They become fragile. They become bitter. They blame the economy, their parents, or their luck for their hard life, never realizing that their hard life was built, brick by brick, out of easy choices. Closing thoughts for Chapter 5. As you go through your day-to-day, stop yourself before you act. Ask yourself, am I choosing easy now, hard later, or hard now, easy later? The donut is easy now, but the health crisis is hard later. The workout is hard now, but the vibrant energy is easy later. The social media scroll is easy now, but the stagnant career is hard later. The deep work session is hard now, but the promotion and expertise are easy later. The universe is a fair accountant. It will always collect its due. You can pay now, or you can pay later with interest. Choose the hard choice. It's the only way to get to the easy life. Core phrase. Easy now, hard later. Hard now, easy later. Chapter 6. Train yourself to do hard things daily. The muscle of discipline. Most people view discipline as a personality trait, something you are either born with or you aren't. They look at the person who wakes up at 4:30 a.m. to run in the rain and say, I wish I had their willpower. They look at the entrepreneur who works through the weekend and say, they must just be wired differently. But discipline is not an inheritance, it is a muscle. And like any muscle, it obeys the laws of biology. If you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't challenge it, it withers. If you only use it once in a while, it remains weak and unreliable. If you want to be able to lift the heavy weights of life, the major crises, the massive career pivots, the grueling long-term goals, you cannot start training on the day of the event. You must train every single day when nothing is at stake. You must build a habit of seeking out the difficult path, not because you have to, but because you choose to. This is the art of voluntary discomfort. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex, the seat of willpower. For a long time, scientists wondered where willpower actually lived in the brain. Recently, neuroscientists have pointed toward a specific structure called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, AMCC. The findings are revolutionary. They discovered that this part of the brain is larger in superagers, people who stay mentally sharp into their 90s, and in people who are highly disciplined. But here is the most fascinating part. The AMCC only grows when you do something you do not want to do. If you love running and you go for a 5-mile run, your AMCC doesn't change. You're doing something you enjoy. But if you hate running and you force yourself to go for that same 5-mile run, your AMCC physically expands. If you are tired and you want to order pizza, but you force yourself to cook a healthy meal instead, you are literally adding grey matter to the part of your brain that controls your life. This means that doing hard things is not just a metaphorical exercise, it is a physical upgrade. Every time you do something difficult, you are making it easier for your brain to choose the hard path next time. You are building a brain that is literally wired for success. The first battle, the alarm clock. The training begins the second you regain consciousness. The alarm clock is the first test of the day, and for most people, it is the first defeat. When the alarm goes off and you hit snooze, you are starting your day with a negotiation, as we discussed in Chapter 3. You are telling your subconscious mind that your goals are less important than 10 more minutes of unconsciousness. You are beginning your day by surrendering to comfort. Training yourself to do hard things starts here. When that alarm sounds, there is a gap between the noise and your reaction. In that gap, you feel the suck. You feel the warmth of the blankets and the cold of the room. The disciplined person uses that suck as a trigger. The moment they feel the desire to stay in bed, they move. They don't wait for the feeling to go away. They move with the feeling. By winning that first battle at 5 o'clock or 6 a.m., you have already signaled to your brain, today, we are the ones in charge. We do not take orders from our feelings. Voluntary hardship. Choosing the storm. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome, such as Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, practiced a technique called premeditatio malorum and the practice of voluntary poverty. Even though Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome, he would spend several days a month eating the cheapest food, wearing tattered clothes, and sleeping on the floor. Why? Because he wanted to kill the fear of losing his comfort. He wanted to prove to himself that he could survive and even thrive under difficult conditions. You must integrate voluntary hardship into your modern life. If you always have the thermostat set to the perfect temperature, you become fragile. If you always take the elevator, your body becomes weak. If you always eat until you are completely full, you lose your edge. Do something hard every single day. Take a cold shower. There is no functional reason to take a cold shower. It won't make you cleaner, but it forces you to face a physical fear and step into discomfort. It is a 2-minute training session for your soul. Exercise when you are tired. Anyone can work out when they feel great. The real growth happens on the days when your body is heavy and your mind is making excuses, and you go anyway. Fast. Skipping a meal or practicing intermittent fasting isn't just about health. It's about proving that you are the master of your biological urges. You are telling your stomach, I will eat when I decide, not when you demand. The Deep Work Challenge. Doing hard things isn't just physical. In our modern world, the hardest thing for many people is simply paying attention. We are addicted to the micro-dopamine of notifications, likes, and scrolling. Our focus has become fragmented and weak. Choosing to sit in a chair for 90 minutes and work on one difficult task without checking your phone is, for many, more difficult than running a mile. This is intellectual resistance. Your brain will itch. You will feel an almost physical urge to check your email or open a browser tab. That itch is the feeling of your focus muscle being stretched. When you feel that urge to distract yourself, stay in the chair. Force yourself to endure the boredom and the difficulty of deep thought. Training yourself to do deep work daily is one of the most valuable hard things you can do, because it is a skill that is rapidly disappearing from the workforce. The callus of the mind. David Goggins, the retired Navy SEAL, often speaks about callousing the mind. If you want to play the guitar, the tips of your fingers will initially bleed. They will be soft and sensitive. But if you keep playing, the skin thickens. It develops a callus. Eventually, you can play for hours without feeling any pain. Your mind works the same way. If you live a soft life, your mind is sensitive. Every minor inconvenience, a rude comment, a traffic jam, a rainy day, feels like a tragedy. You are easily hurt and easily discouraged. But when you do hard things daily, you callous your mind. You become mentally tough. You begin to view obstacles as just another hard thing that you are capable of handling. You develop a psychological armor that protects you from the inevitable storms of life. The person who has taken a 38-degree shower every morning for a year is not going to be rattled by a stressful meeting at 10 a.m. They have already faced the dragon of the day. Working when others relax. There is a specific kind of strength built when you work while the rest of the world is off. There is a psychological edge gained by working on a Friday night, an early Sunday morning, or during a holiday. It isn't about being a workaholic, it's about the identity shift. When you see everyone else seeking comfort, partying, sleeping in, or numbing themselves, and you choose to seek growth, you are reinforcing the identity that you are different. You are separating yourself from the average. This creates a compound effect of confidence. You know that you are doing what others won't, so you will eventually have what others don't. That quiet knowledge that you have outworked the standard provides a level of self-assurance that no positive affirmation can ever match. The danger of the rest day trap. Society is obsessed with self-care, but we have redefined self-care to mean indulgence. We think self-care is a spa day or a weekend of doing nothing. True self-care is doing the hard things that make your future self better. Self-care is getting enough sleep so you can perform. Self-care is saying no to the third drink. Self-care is having the discipline to keep your environment clean. Be wary of the "I deserve a break" mentality. While physical recovery is necessary, mental rest often leads to a leak in your discipline. If you take a day off from being a disciplined person, it is twice as hard to get back on track the next day. Discipline doesn't have a weekend. Growth doesn't have a vacation. You don't need to run a marathon every day, but you do need to do something that challenges your spirit every single day. If you are on vacation, do 50 push-ups. If it's your birthday, read 20 pages of a difficult book. Keep the chain of discipline unbroken. Building your hard thing menu. To make this practical, you need a menu of hard things. When you wake up, you shouldn't have to think about what difficult task to perform. You should already have a list. Category 1. Physical discomfort. Cold exposure, showers, ice baths. High-intensity interval training. Lifting weights that make you sweat. Running an extra mile when you want to stop. Category 2. Mental or professional discomfort. Eat the frog. Doing your most dreaded work task first. 90 minutes of phone-free deep work. Studying a topic that is confusing or difficult for you. Category 3. Social emotional discomfort. Giving someone honest, difficult feedback. Admitting you were wrong without making excuses. Speaking up in a meeting when you feel nervous. Closing thoughts for Chapter 6. Growth is a habit, not an event. You don't become strong by doing one massive thing. You become strong by doing 1,000 small, hard things when you didn't have to. The world wants you to be comfortable. It wants you to be a consumer, passive, soft, and easy to manipulate. Resistance is your act of rebellion. Choosing to do the hard thing is how you reclaim your humanity and your power. Tonight, before you go to sleep, decide what your hard thing will be for tomorrow. Don't make it impossible, but make it significant enough that your weak mind tries to talk you out of it. And when that resistance comes tomorrow, and it will, greet it like an old friend. Core phrase. Do something hard every single day. Chapter 7. The silent strength of quiet discipline. The performance trap. We live in an era of performative excellence. We are surrounded by a digital culture that tells us if a workout isn't logged on an app, it didn't count. If a business goal isn't announced on LinkedIn, it isn't real. If a healthy meal isn't photographed and filtered, it didn't happen. We have become addicted to the clout of growth rather than the growth itself. But there is a fundamental law of human transformation. The louder you are about your goals, the less likely you are to achieve them. Real growth is invisible. Real strength is built in the shadows, in the early hours of the morning, and in the late hours of the night when the world is asleep and there is no one around to hit the like button. True discipline is not a dramatic, cinematic moment of glory. It is a quiet, repetitive, and often boring commitment to the process. It is the silent strength of doing the work when there is zero external validation. The psychology of the identity claim. Why is it so dangerous to talk about your goals? Scientists call it the identity claim effect. When you tell someone, "I'm going to run a marathon," or "I'm starting a new business," your brain receives a social reality reward. Because the person you told acknowledges your goal, perhaps by saying, "That's amazing. You're so driven." Your brain feels a hit of dopamine as if you have already achieved the goal. This is a biological disaster for your motivation. Motivation is meant to be the fuel that drives you to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. When you announce your goal and receive praise, your brain mistakenly believes that the gap has already been closed. The hunger disappears. The inner pressure that was supposed to drive you to the gym or the office evaporates because you've already received the psychological payout. This is why so many people are perpetual starters. They are addicted to the high of announcing a new project, but they lack the quiet discipline to see it through once the initial excitement fades. To be truly strong, you must learn to work in silence. You must let your results do the talking. The bamboo principle: roots before shoots. Consider the Chinese bamboo tree. When the seed is planted, you see nothing for years. You must water it and weed the soil every single day, but for 4 consecutive years, there is no visible growth above the ground. To an outsider, it looks like you are wasting your time. It looks like nothing is happening. But in the 5th year, something miraculous occurs. In a period of just 6 weeks, the Chinese bamboo tree grows to a height of 80 feet. Did the tree grow 80 feet in 6 weeks? No, it grew 80 feet in 5 years. During those 4 years of silence, the tree was developing a massive, complex root system that could support the weight of its future height. Without those years of invisible, quiet growth, the tree would have collapsed the moment it tried to reach the sky. Your life is no different. The visible success that people eventually see, the promotion, the fit body, the thriving business, is only the shoot. The most important part of your journey is the root phase. It is the quiet discipline of showing up every day when nothing seems to be changing. If you try to rush to the shoot phase because you want the world to see you, you will lack the character and the foundation to sustain your success. The mundanity of excellence. In 1989, sociologist Daniel Chambliss published a landmark study titled The Mundanity of Excellence. He spent years studying Olympic-level swimmers to find out what separated the gold medalists from the merely good athletes. He expected to find some secret sauce, some magical talent or dramatic intensity. Instead, he found that excellence was mundane. It was the result of doing small, boring things correctly, over and over again, until they became automatic. Excellence is not a grand gesture. It is the quiet discipline of keeping your elbow at the right angle for 10,000 strokes. It is the quiet discipline of eating the same clean meal for the 100th time. It is the quiet discipline of going to bed at 9 p.m. when your friends are out at a bar. High performers are not people who live exciting lives. They are people who have become comfortable with boredom. They have realized that the secret to greatness is simply the ability to perform basic tasks with a level of consistency that would drive an average person insane. They don't need a motivational speech every day because they have built a silent strength that doesn't rely on hype. Consistency versus intensity. The world loves intensity. We love the 30-day challenge, the crash diet, and the all-nighter. We love the idea of a massive, heroic effort that changes everything overnight. But intensity is the enemy of long-term growth. Intensity is loud, it's unsustainable, and it's often a form of ego. Intensity is what you do when you want to feel like you're working hard. Consistency is quiet. Consistency is what you do when you actually want to be better. Intensity is running 10 miles once a month until you're injured. Consistency is walking 2 miles every single day for 5 years. The consistent person will always outperform the intense person in the long run. Why? Because consistency builds compound interest. If you improve by just 1% every day, you will be 37 times better by the end of the year. But that 1% improvement is invisible. You can't see it on a day-to-day basis. You can only see it when you look back after years of quiet discipline. The silent strength is the ability to value the 1% gain more than the 100% flash in the pan. The dark room mentality. Think of an old-fashioned photographer developing film in a dark room. If they open the door and let the light in too early, the image is ruined. The development process requires the dark. It requires time. It requires isolation. Your character is developed in the dark room. It's the extra set of representatives when the gym is empty. It's the hour of study when you're on a plane and no one knows you're working. It's the decision to be honest when you could have lied and gotten away with it. When you do things for an audience, you are performing. When you do things in the dark, you are transforming. There is a specific kind of pride that comes from quiet discipline. It's an internal knowing. When you stand on the stage of life, whether that's a boardroom, a competition, or a difficult life event, you aren't nervous. You're calm. You're calm because you know exactly what you did in the dark. You know the receipts you have collected when no one was watching. That internal certainty is more powerful than any external applause. The drain of seeking approval. Every time you look for external validation for your growth, you are leaking energy. When you check your phone to see if people liked your gym selfie, you are shifting your locus of control from internal to external. You are handing the keys to your self-worth to a group of strangers on the internet. If they like your post, you feel good. If they ignore it, you feel discouraged. This makes your growth fragile. If your discipline is fueled by likes, it will die the moment the likes stop coming. Quiet discipline is self-sufficient. It is fueled by an internal locus of control. You do the work because it is who you are, not because of how it makes you look. By cutting off the need for approval, you become dangerous. You become a person who cannot be stopped, because you cannot be bought by praise and you cannot be broken by criticism. You are working for an audience of one, the version of yourself you are trying to build. Practical steps. How to cultivate quiet discipline. The 2-week silence rule. When you start a new goal, tell no one for at least 14 days. Don't post it. Don't tell your best friend. Don't tell your partner. Build a pressure cooker of internal motivation. Let the results speak for themselves. Audit your performative habits. Ask yourself, would I still do this workout if I couldn't tell anyone about it? Would I still read this book if I couldn't put it on my shelf for people to see? If the answer is no, your motivation is external. Celebrate in private. When you hit a milestone, don't announce it. Treat yourself to a quiet moment of reflection. Journal about how it feels to have kept your promise to yourself. This reinforces that the reward is the achievement, not the recognition. Embrace the mundane. Fall in love with the repetitive nature of your work. Stop looking for excitement and start looking for rhythm. The rhythm of the daily grind is where the silent strength lives. Closing thoughts for Chapter 7. The world is full of loud people who are going nowhere. They are full of talk, full of plans, and full of announcements, but their lives remain stagnant because they are spending all their energy on the show. Do not be one of them. Be the person who is so busy building their empire that they don't have time to talk about it. Be the person whose transformation is so profound that people have to ask, when did this happen? The answer will be, it happened every single day when you weren't looking. Success isn't a lightning bolt. It's a slow, quiet, invisible accumulation of effort. It's the strength of the root, not the beauty of the flower. Build your foundation in the dark, and your success will take care of itself in the light. Core phrase. Greatness is built in silence. Chapter 8. Your environment is feeding your comfort. The invisible hand. Most people believe that their failures are a result of a lack of willpower. They think that if they were just stronger, they wouldn't eat the junk food, they wouldn't waste 4 hours on their phone, and they wouldn't skip their morning workout. They view life as a constant, internal battle between their better self and their weak mind. But here is the hard truth that most self-help books won't tell you. Willpower is a finite resource. It is like the battery on your smartphone. It starts full in the morning and drains with every decision you make. If you are constantly using your willpower to fight against your surroundings, you are going to lose. You cannot win a 24/7 war against an environment designed to keep you comfortable. Your environment is the invisible hand that shapes your behavior. It is the silent architect of your habits. If you live in a world that rewards mediocrity, simplifies every task, and surrounds you with comfort-addicted people, you will eventually become a product of that world. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your environment. To seek growth, you must first audit the world you have built around yourself. The crab mentality. There is a well-known phenomenon in biology called crab mentality. If you put a single crab in a bucket, it will easily climb out and find its way back to the ocean. But if you put a dozen crabs in that same bucket, none of them will escape. As soon as one crab starts to climb the side, the others will reach up and pull it back down to the bottom. This isn't because the other crabs are evil. It's because your movement upward creates a sense of insecurity in those staying at the bottom. The people in your life, your friends, your family, your co-workers, often act as the crabs in your bucket. They have a vested interest in you staying exactly as you are. Why? Because as long as you are comfortable and stagnant, they don't have to feel bad about their comfort and stagnation. The moment you start seeking growth, the moment you start waking up at 5 a.m., reading books instead of watching TV, and talking about big goals, you become a mirror that reflects their own lack of discipline back at them. To stop that feeling of inadequacy, they will subconsciously, and sometimes consciously, try to pull you back down. They'll say things like, "Why are you working so hard? Relax, you only live once," or "You've changed, you're not fun anymore." If your social circle is built on a foundation of shared comfort, your growth will be seen as a threat. You must realize that your environment shapes your limits. If you are the most disciplined person in your circle is too small. The law of least effort. Human beings are biologically wired to follow the law of least effort. Our brains are designed to find the path that requires the least amount of energy. Your physical environment is constantly whispering suggestions to your brain based on this law. If your phone is sitting on your desk next to you while you work, the least effort path is to check it. If the TV remote is on the coffee table and your gym shoes are in the back of a dark closet, the least effort path is to watch Netflix. If your kitchen is filled with processed easy snacks, the least effort path is to eat junk. You are not lazy, you are simply reacting to the architecture of your life. To seek growth, you must intentionally salt the field of your comfort. You must create friction for the habits you want to break and remove friction for the habits you want to build. If you want to stop scrolling, put your phone in a different room. If you want to work out, put your gym clothes on your pillow the night before. If you want to read more, put a book on top of your TV remote. By redesigning your physical space, you stop relying on willpower and start relying on design. You make the hard choice the easy path. Digital pollution, the comfort feed. We no longer just live in physical environments, we live in digital ones. And the digital environment is the most sophisticated comfort trap ever designed. Silicon Valley has spent billions of dollars and hired the world's top neuroscientists to ensure that your digital environment is a 24/7 feed of dopamine and comfort. Every like, every swipe, and every autoplay video is designed to keep you in a passive, consumption-based state. Your digital environment is polluted with the highlights of other people's lives, which creates a false sense of connection while actually increasing your isolation and anxiety. It feeds you junk food for the mind, outrage, gossip, and endless entertainment that keeps you from ever entering the resistance zone required for growth. If your screen time report is higher than your deep work time, your environment is feeding your comfort. You are being domesticated by an algorithm. You must treat your digital space with the same level of discipline as your physical space. Delete the apps that serve no purpose. Turn off every notification that isn't from a real human being. Curate your feed so that it challenges you rather than just entertaining you. The greenhouse versus the wild. Think about a plant in a greenhouse. It has perfect soil, perfect water, and no wind. It grows quickly, but it is fragile. If you took that plant and put it outside in the wild, it would die in the first storm because it has never had to develop stress wood. It has never had to fight for its survival. Most modern environments are greenhouses. We have removed all the wind. We have climate control, ergonomic chairs, and safe social structures. If you want to be strong, you have to leave the greenhouse. You have to go where the wind blows. This might mean joining a high-performance gym where you are the weakest person there. It might mean taking a job at a startup where the pressure is intense and the hours are long. It might mean moving to a new city where you don't know anyone and you have to rebuild your life from scratch. Growth requires a certain level of environmental hardship. You need to be in a place that demands more of you than you currently believe you can give. If your environment is comfortable, you will stay soft. The price of growth is separation. This is the hardest part of seeking growth. Sometimes, you have to leave people behind. As you shift your mindset from seeking comfort to seeking growth, the gap between you and your old environment will widen. You will find that you no longer have anything in common with the people who just want to hang out and complain about their lives. You will find that the places you used to go to relax now feel like a waste of time. There is a period of lonely transition that every high performer goes through. It's the period after you've left your old, comfort-driven world but before you've fully entered your new, growth-driven one. Many people fail here. They feel the cold of the lonely transition and they run back to the bucket of crabs because it's warm and familiar. But you must endure the cold. You must realize that separation is not a sign of cold-heartedness, it is a sign of self-respect. You cannot fly with eagles if you are still scratching the ground with chickens. Your environment includes the conversations you participate in. If the people around you are talking about people and events, but you want to talk about ideas and execution, you are in the wrong room. Seek the rooms where the conversation makes you feel slightly out of your depth. That is where the growth is. Designing your monastery. The highest level of environmental control is creating what I call a growth monastery. This is a space, whether it's a physical room, a specific time of day, or a mental state, that is sacred and protected from the world of comfort. In your monastery, there are no distractions. There is no easy option. There is only you and the work. It might be the 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. window when the house is silent. It might be a sparse home office with nothing but a desk, a chair, and a notebook. It might be a specific library or a coffee shop where you only go to do deep work. By associating a specific environment with a specific level of intensity, you create a trigger. Eventually, when you enter that space, your brain automatically switches from comfort mode to growth mode. You don't have to try to be disciplined. The environment does the work for you. Audit your surroundings. The 3-step process. To change your environment, you must perform a radical audit. The people audit. List the 5 people you spend the most time with. Next to each name, write growth or comfort. If someone is comfort, it means they only want to do easy things with you. If they are growth, they challenge you. You don't have to cut off everyone, but you must drastically reduce the time you spend with the comfort group. The friction audit. Walk through your house. Identify every comfort trigger, the bowl of candy, the TV remote, the phone charger next to the bed. Move them. Make them hard to reach. Identify every growth trigger, the vitamins, the workout gear, the difficult book. Put them in your direct path. The information audit. Look at your social media following list. Unfollow every account that makes you feel content or distracted. Follow accounts that make you feel uncomfortable in a productive way. People who are doing more than you, who are smarter than you, and who have the life you want. Closing thoughts for Chapter 8. You are a product of your surroundings, but you are also the creator of your surroundings. You cannot blame your environment for your lack of progress if you are the one who refuses to change it. If you want to be a lion, stop hanging out in the sheepfold. If you want to be a diamond, stop avoiding the pressure of the deep earth. Your environment is either a wind at your back, pushing you toward your potential, or a wall in your way, keeping you trapped in the safe zone. Stop being a victim of your space. Become the architect of your evolution. Change your room, change your circle, and change your life. Core phrase. Your environment shapes your limits. Chapter 9. Become the person who seeks challenge. The hunter and the prey. In the natural world, there are 2 types of mindsets, the mindset of the prey and the mindset of the hunter. The prey is constantly looking for safety. Its entire biological existence is dedicated to the avoidance of tension. It wants a field where the grass is tall enough to hide in, where the water is easy to reach, and where no predators are in sight. When the prey senses a challenge, a strange scent on the wind or a rustle in the bushes, its response is immediate: flight. It runs toward comfort. It runs toward the known. The hunter, however, lives for the tension. The hunter doesn't look for the easy field. It looks for the trail. It views the scent on the wind not as a threat to be avoided, but as an opportunity to be pursued. The hunter understands that its survival, its strength, and its dominance are entirely dependent on its ability to engage with difficulty. Up until this point in the book, we have talked about enduring discomfort and building discipline. But in Chapter 9, we move to the highest level of human development, becoming the person who seeks the challenge. This is the flip of the script. It is the moment you stop being a victim of the world's demands and start being an aggressor toward your own potential. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And you start asking, "Where is the hardest thing I can do today?" The psychology of the challenge orientation. Psychologists distinguish between 2 primary ways of viewing a stressful situation: as a threat or as a challenge. When you view a situation as a threat, your body undergoes a specific physiological response. Your blood vessels constrict, Your heart rate spikes in an irregular way, and your brain is flooded with cortisol. You feel anxious, heavy, and defensive. You are in survival mode, and your performance plummets. This is the comfort addict reacting to the world. When you view that exact same situation as a challenge, your physiology changes. Your blood vessels actually dilate to allow more oxygen to reach your muscles and brain. Your heart beats with more force, but more efficiency. You feel a sensation that we often call nervousness, but it is actually arousal. It is your body preparing for battle. You are in growth mode. The difference between these two states isn't the situation itself, it's your identity. If you view yourself as a person who needs comfort to survive, everything difficult is a threat. If you view yourself as a person who needs challenge to thrive, everything difficult is fuel. The curse of the easy win. We are conditioned to want the easy win. We want the promotion that comes without the overtime. We want the victory against the weak opponent. We want the lucky break. But there is a spiritual hollowness in the easy win. Have you ever played a video game on the easy setting? At first, it's fun to be invincible. You crush every enemy without effort. But within 20 minutes, you are bored. Why? Because there is no meaning in a victory that doesn't require a change in yourself. Meaning is found in the gap between who you are and what the task requires. If the task requires nothing of you, the reward is nothing to you. The challenge seeker understands this. They don't want the easy path because they know the easy path leads to a weak soul. They look for the hard win. They look for the project that everyone else is afraid of. They look for the weight that is just beyond their current PR. They realize that the aliveness they crave isn't found in the destination. It's found in the friction of the climb. Flipping the script, the good philosophy. There is a famous story about Jocko Willink, the retired Navy SEAL commander. Whenever one of his subordinates would come to him with a problem, the mission was cancelled, the equipment broke, we didn't get the funding, Jocko would look at them and say one word, good. Mission cancelled. Good. We have more time to train. Equipment broke. Good. We'll learn how to operate without it. Didn't get the funding. Good. We'll become leaner and more creative. This is the essence of seeking challenge. It is the refusal to see bad luck as a setback. Instead, it is the immediate realization that every obstacle is an opportunity to test a different part of your character. When you become a person who seeks challenge, you stop complaining because complaining is a prey behavior. Hunters don't complain about the rain. They use the rain to mask their footsteps. When a crisis hits, the challenge seeker doesn't put their head in their hands. They lean forward. They feel a surge of energy because they realize, finally, the training is over. The real work has begun. The biology of aging and the comfort decline. There is a physiological reason why we must seek challenge as we age. There is a concept in biology called hormesis. Hormesis is the idea that a small amount of stress or poison actually makes an organism stronger. Think about a vaccine, or the way your muscles respond to the poison of lactic acid. As we get older, our natural biological drive is toward homeostasis, a state of constant, unchanging balance. If we allow this to happen, we begin to die. We lose our cognitive flexibility. We lose our bone density. We lose our spark. People who seek challenge into their 70s, 80s, and 90s are the ones who stay young. By forcing their brain to learn new languages, forcing their bodies to move in difficult ways, and forcing their minds to engage with new technologies, they are triggering hormetic responses. They are telling their cells, we are still in the fight. Do not shut down yet. Comfort is the precursor to death. Challenge is the evidence of life. If you want to stay vibrant, you must find something every day that scares you or confuses you. You must remain a student of the difficult. The bottleneck strategy. How do you practically start seeking challenge in your professional life? You look for the bottleneck. In every business, every project, and every skill set, there is a bottleneck, one specific area that is the most difficult, the most annoying, and the most avoided. Most people work around the bottleneck. They do the easy 80% of the work and ignore the hard 20% that actually moves the needle. The challenge seeker goes straight for the bottleneck. If you're a salesperson and you hate cold calling, you don't hire an assistant to do it for you. You do 50 cold calls every morning until you are the best in the office at it. If you're an athlete and your left hand is weak, you spend an entire month only using your left hand. By attacking the point of highest resistance, you gain an unfair advantage over the rest of the world. While everyone else is competing in the comfortable space, you are mastering the difficult space. And in the long run, the person who masters the difficult space owns the market. The social challenge. Seeking the truth. Seeking challenge isn't just about physical weights or work deadlines. It's about intellectual and emotional challenge. Most of us seek intellectual comfort. We read books that agree with us. We follow people who share our politics. We stay in echo chambers that make us feel smart. The challenge seeker seeks the opposition. They read the book that challenges their worldview. They have conversations with people who disagree with them. They seek the uncomfortable truth rather than the comfortable lie. Emotionally, seeking challenge means seeking the difficult conversation. Instead of letting a resentment fester in a relationship because it's too awkward to talk about, the challenge seeker brings it up. They realize that the tension of a hard conversation is the only way to reach the peace of a deep connection. They don't run from the fire. They walk through it to get to the other side. The concept of antifragility. The author Nassim Taleb coined the term antifragile. Something is fragile if it breaks under stress, like a glass vase. Something is resilient if it resists stress and stays the same, like a steel beam. Something is antifragile if it actually gets better when it is stressed, like a human muscle or a forest fire that grows with the wind. Your goal in life is to become antifragile. You want to reach a point where you aren't just coping with challenge, but you are actually dependent on it to be your best self. Think about a high-performance sports car. If you drive a Ferrari at 20 miles per hour in city traffic, the engine will eventually overheat and fail. The car is designed to be driven at 150 miles per hour. It needs the high RPMs to function correctly. You are a high-performance machine. When you live a low-challenge life, your engine starts to soot up. You get depressed. You get anxious. You feel off. Often, the cure for your malaise isn't rest, it's a higher level of RPM. You need to find a challenge big enough to require all of your gears. How to hunt resistance, a daily practice. Starting today, I want you to change your vocabulary. When you see a task that looks daunting, stop saying, "I have to do this." Start saying, "I am hunting this." The morning hunt. Look at your to-do list. Identify the one thing you are most likely to procrastinate on. That is your prey. Do it first. Do it while you are still tired. Do it before you have your coffee. Prove to your weak mind that you are a hunter. The physical hunt. When you are at the gym, don't just do your sets. Look for the point where your form starts to break. Look for the point where the burn becomes intense. That is the moment of growth. Seek that burn. Don't avoid it. Chase it. The fear hunt. Make a list of 3 things that make you socially or professionally uncomfortable. E.g., calling a high-level lead, asking for a raise, public speaking. Commit to hunting one of those fears per week. When you seek the challenge loses its power over you. You cannot be intimidated by something you are actively looking for. Closing thoughts for Chapter 9. The strongest mindset flips the script. It stops viewing the world as a series of obstacles and starts viewing it as a series of weightlifting sessions. You are no longer the person who hopes today will be easy. You are the person who hopes today will be testing. You realize that the discomfort that once scared you is actually the proof of evolution. It is the sound of your old limits shattering. When you stop avoiding the resistance and start seeking it, you become unstoppable. Because if the worst thing that can happen to you is a challenge, and you are a person who loves challenges, then you have already won. Core phrase. Seek challenge. Seek resistance. Seek growth. Chapter 10. The growth identity. The who behind the what. We have reached the final stage of this journey. We have discussed the dangers of comfort, the necessity of resistance, the war against the negotiator in your mind, and the power of environment. But all of these tactics, strategies, and scientific insights will eventually fail you if you do not address the most fundamental component of human behavior: your identity. Most people approach change from the outside in. They say, "I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to earn 6 figures. They focus on the outcome. When they focus on the outcome, they force themselves to perform actions that are in direct conflict with how they see themselves. The person who sees themselves as lazy but tries to go to the gym is performing an act. They are wearing a mask. And eventually, the mask becomes too heavy to wear. They return to the couch because the couch is who they really are. To truly stop seeking comfort and start seeking growth, growth cannot be something you try, it must become who you are. You must shift from doing growth-oriented things to possessing a growth identity. In this final chapter, we will explore how to set your internal thermostat to a new level of heat and how to become a person for whom effort is the default and comfort is a red flag. The psychology of the self-image. Your self-image is the most powerful force in your life. It acts as an invisible governor, like the speed limiter on a truck. If you view yourself as a level 5 person in terms of discipline, but you somehow find yourself performing at a level 9, your brain will actually create anxiety and self-sabotage to pull you back down to level 5. It wants you to stay consistent with your internal story. This is why people who win the lottery often lose it all within a few years. Their external bank account changed, but their financial identity stayed at broke. To sustain a life of growth, you must rewrite the story you tell yourself about yourself. You must stop saying, "I'm trying to be more disciplined," or "I'm working on being a person who does hard things." The word trying implies the possibility of failure. It gives you an out. Instead, you must adopt the language of identity. I'm a person who seeks growth. I am a person who does not negotiate with my mind. I am a person who finds a way when there is no way. When an action is tied to your identity, you don't need willpower to do it. You do it because that is simply what a person like you does. The athlete versus the person who works out. Consider the difference between two people at the gym. The first person is working out to lose weight. Every minute on the treadmill is a struggle. They are constantly checking the clock. They are looking for reasons to leave early. Why? Because in their mind, they are a sedentary person who is currently suffering through a workout. The second person is an athlete. They might be lifting the same weights and running the same miles, but their experience is entirely different. They don't check the clock to see when they can leave. They check it to see if they have time for one more set. They don't view the sweat as pain, they view it as work. If they miss a day, they feel off, like they've forgotten to brush their teeth. The athlete doesn't need motivation to go to the gym. They go because they are an athlete, and athletes train. That is the power of identity. When you transition from seeking growth to having a growth identity, the hard choices become the automatic choices. You don't have to debate whether or not to do the hard thing. You do it because not doing it would be a betrayal of who you are. The identity thermostat. Think of your identity as a thermostat. A thermostat is designed to keep a room at a specific temperature. If the temperature drops too low, the heater kicks on. If it gets too high, the air conditioning kicks on. Most people have their comfort thermostat set to easy. When life gets a little bit hard, when the pressure builds or the work gets boring, their internal air conditioning kicks on. They start looking for a distraction, a snack, a nap, or a break. They are self-regulating back to their comfort zone. The growth identity involves manually overriding that thermostat. You must set your baseline to challenge. When you have a growth identity, you feel uncomfortable when things are too easy. If you spend an entire Saturday sitting on the couch, you don't feel relaxed, you feel itchy. You feel like a predator that hasn't hunted in weeks. You feel a sense of internal wrongness because you are performing below your identity setting. This is the ultimate goal, to reach a point where comfort feels suspicious. When you find yourself in a situation where there is no resistance, no pressure, and no learning, your growth identity should sound an alarm. It should say, "Danger. You are stagnating. Move." The concept of evidence-based confidence. You cannot lie to your subconscious mind. You cannot just look in the mirror and say, "I am a warrior." If you haven't done anything warrior-like in 6 months, your brain knows the truth. It has the receipts. Confidence is not a feeling you conjure up. It is a historical record. It is the result of thousands of small wins you have accumulated over time. Every time you do something hard, every time you wake up early, every cold shower you take, every difficult email you send, every extra rep you squeeze out, you are casting a vote for your new identity. In the beginning, the comfort identity has millions of votes. You've been seeking comfort for years. Your new growth identity only has a few. But as you continue to seek resistance, the tally begins to shift. Eventually, the growth identity becomes the majority shareholder of your mind. You develop evidence-based confidence. You don't believe you can handle a challenge. You know you can, because you have a mountain of evidence behind you proving that you've done it before. You stop being afraid of the future because you have become a person who knows how to navigate the dark. The standard of excellence. With a growth identity comes a change in standards. Most people have goals, but very few people have standards. A goal is something you hope to reach. A standard is the bare minimum you are willing to accept. When you adopt a growth identity, your floor rises. Things that used to be your best effort become your daily minimum. You no longer aim to maybe exercise. Your standard is that your body moves every day. You no longer aim to try to be productive. Your standard is that you don't touch your phone until your deep work is done. High performers are not defined by their highest peaks. They are defined by their lowest lows. They have raised their standards so high that even on their worst day, when they are tired, sick, or unmotivated, they still outperform 90% of the population. They have made seeking growth a non-negotiable part of their daily hygiene. The suspicious mind. Guarding against the drift. Success is a dangerous thing. When you start making progress, when the money starts coming in, when the body looks good, when the career is thriving, the temptation to return to comfort is stronger than ever. This is called the success trap. You tell yourself, I've made it. I can finally relax. I've earned the right to be comfortable. This is the moment when most empires fall. This is when the drift begins. The moment you stop seeking growth is the moment you start the slow slide back into mediocrity. The person with a growth identity stays hungry even when they are full. They remain suspicious of their own success. They know that the comfort addict is still living inside them, waiting for a moment of weakness to take the wheel. To guard against the drift, you must constantly set new, higher levels of resistance. You must intentionally put yourself in rooms where you are the small fish again. You must take up new hobbies where you are a beginner. You must stay clumsy. If you are always the master of your environment, you are in a comfort trap of your own making. The 24/7 nature of identity. There is no off switch for who you are. If you are a person who chooses growth, you choose it on Tuesday morning at the office, and you choose it on Saturday night at a party. You choose it when you are on vacation, and you choose it when you are grieving. This doesn't mean you never rest. Rest is a biological necessity. But for the growth identity, rest is strategic. It is active recovery designed to prepare you for the next challenge. It is not escapism designed to hide from your life. When you live with this identity, you stop looking for an exit strategy from your work or your discipline. You don't want to retire from growth. Why would you want to stop becoming a better version of yourself? The struggle isn't something you are trying to get through so you can be comfortable. The struggle is the point. The climb is the destination. The final shift, from I to we. As your identity solidifies, you will notice a final shift. You stop seeking growth just for yourself, and you start seeking it for the people around you. You realize that your comfort doesn't just hurt you, it hurts everyone who depends on you. If you are soft, you cannot protect your family. If you are undisciplined, you cannot lead your team. If you are stagnant, you cannot inspire your children. Your growth identity becomes a responsibility. You choose the hard path because you know that strong people create easy times. You realize that the world needs you to be at your absolute best. When your growth is tied to the service of others, it becomes unbreakable. You might be willing to negotiate with your own dreams, but you will never negotiate with the well-being of the people you love. Your identity becomes anchored in something larger than your own convenience. Conclusion: the choice is yours. We started this book with a simple premise. Comfort feels safe, but comfort quietly kills potential. By now, you know the truth. You know that every time you choose the easy way, you are dying a small death. You know that every time you seek the resistance, you are truly living. The path of growth is not the happy path in the way the world defines happiness. It is not a path of constant smiles, sunshine, and good vibes. It is a path of sweat, grit, uncertainty, and frequent failure. It is a path that will break you down and demand that you rebuild yourself over and over again. But it is the only path that leads to a life worth living. It is the only path that ends with you looking in the mirror and respecting the person looking back at you. You have the tools. You have the science. You have the strategies. But more than that, you have the choice. Starting today, you are no longer a seeker of comfort. That person is gone. That version of you has been shed like the old shell of a lobster. Today, you are a seeker of growth. You are the person who runs toward the fire. You are the person who loves the pressure. You are the person who does the hard things. When the world offers you the easy button, you will refuse to push it. When your mind begs for the snooze button, you will ignore it. When the road splits into the safe path and the difficult path, you won't even have to think. You will take the difficult one, because that is where the growth is. Go out and find your resistance. Go out and build your diamond mind. Go out and become the person you were meant to be. Stop seeking comfort. Start seeking growth. Core phrase: I am the person who chooses growth.